Hi, my name is Leandro Facchinetti, and let's write some code together, shall we? What we have on the menu today is part 4 of this series of streams in which I am developing a Reaper action to explode a media file, like a video file or an audio file, that has multiple tracks in it. And I'm not talking about multiple channels, I'm talking about multiple tracks. So the example that I have and the motivation for this is to record in OBS with multiple tracks. One track is the audio from the microphone, and another track is the audio from the computer, and I want to edit the footage in Reaper, and I want to be able to process the audio differently. So my microphone will have some EQ and compression, and the sound from the computer will have some limiter, that sort of thing. And so far in this series of streams, what we have is we are able to inspect a file to detect whether it has multiple streams. That's the part that is being done in this section of the code. Then we are able to build a command. So we are using ffmpeg to do this. We are calling ffmpeg from the command line from within the Reaper action. And ffmpeg is able to inspect a file and determine the number of streams in the file. And ffmpeg is, of course, able to convert the file. And that's what we are doing right here. We are converting a file into multiple files with all the different streams. And that's what we have so far. The plan for today is to detect the number of tracks that I will need to create in order to put the new items with exploded streams in the Reaper timeline. So more specifically, what I'm talking about is there's some construction work going on. I don't know if you can hear that. In any case, the point here is you have one of these files like this. We created this file on stream. If you want to know how to configure OBS to create one of these files, you can watch the first stream. So I have here a file, and I manually did the thing I want my Reaper action to do so that we can look at what the result should look like. So we want to have, in this case, there are 3 streams in the file: the video stream from my webcam and 2 audio streams. One is the microphone and the other one is the sound from the computer. And I want to take this media item and explode it like this with 3 different tracks. So I want to create 3 different tracks for this guy. But suppose that you have, in the more general case, selected multiple media items like this, and you may have selected media items in different tracks. So they may live in different tracks. So let's put one right here. So you may have selected something like this. So when this action runs, it should convert both of the files into the different streams and explode the files accordingly. But then it should create tracks underneath this one, because there is this item right here, and we need to create some tracks for the items, the new stream items to live. And we need to create some tracks under this one for exactly the same reason. So here I have an item that is not a video item, it's an audio item, because there is already in Reaper an action that does something similar to what I want. It explodes different channels from a stream. So there is a media file, like this MKV. It has multiple streams, a video stream and 2 audio streams. And each one of the audio streams may be multi-channel. In this case it is. It's stereo, it's 2 channels. And Reaper is capable of taking one of these files with multiple channels and exploding into all the different files that compose, I'll put this here so it's not under my face, all the different files that compose each of the channels. So Reaper is able to explode different channels, but it's unable of exploding different tracks or streams. And that's what we are doing. But I want to mimic the behavior of the Reaper action. So in terms of how the tracks will be created and how the items will be placed, I want to copy whatever Reaper already does. So we can run the explode multi-channel audio. So this is the one that comes with Reaper. This is the one we are creating. So I can run this one on audio, and you can see that what this is doing is it's creating multiple tracks under the existing track. And all these tracks that are created are children of the existing track. I think that's important, that they are children. I'm going to mute the original item, and I will put the new items over here. And it has also created under videos. Yes, this is where my project lives. It has also created different files to back these two items right here. So our goal for today is to create tracks like this. As I said, in the more general case, we will have to create multiple tracks in different places. So check this out. Suppose that instead of having just selected this one item, I'm going to undo all of this. Suppose that I have selected two items and they happen to be the same file underneath, but that doesn't really matter. And then we select both and we run the explode action from Reaper. And check how it's smart, and it only creates two tracks. Also, if I had, instead of this situation, if I had something like this, then I have selected one stereo track, one mono track, one stereo media item, and one mono media item, all on the same track. And when I explode, then what does it do? That's interesting. I thought it was going to put here an item with only one channel, but it didn't. I wonder what happens in general if you try to explode items with a single channel. It seems like it doesn't do anything, but I would, and I'm not going to specialize and think about this case, am I? I guess I should. So that's another thing I want to do. I want to make sure that I have multiple streams. If I don't have multiple streams, I will not touch the file. I don't think that it even creates any tracks underneath. If I have just selected this guy, a single channel media item, and I explode it, it's a no-op. It doesn't do anything. So yeah, okay, now I have two things I want to do. I want to check for this special case and not do anything if there is a single media, single stream in a file. But I think that if I had here a channel, here a media item with two channels, and here a media item with 4 channels, I think that Reaper, I will not bother testing this, but I think that Reaper would be smart enough to explode these guys and create only 4 tracks underneath. And it would put 4 of the items on the quadraphonic media item and 2 items under the stereo item. And that's what we want to do. We want to be smart and only create enough tracks to hold all the media items we will create. So let's start by detecting this edge case that, as I said, is pretty simple. We just have to under here when we are inspecting stuff. So this is all about conversion. So when we are inspecting stuff, we have this loop right here. So after this, the media's list or table in Lua will hold the number of media items that I have selected, and it will also have the information here under medias. It will have the information about the number of streams. So what I'm going to do this no-op thing is I'm going to write some code right here, right after the inspection is over. And I will try to delete the items from the media's list. All the items that have only one stream, I'll delete them from the list. But to do that, I'm going to first check something about the way the current thing works. Because as I think that Reaper is not only smart enough not to create the tracks, but Reaper will also be smart enough not to convert or to try to create new files. So I'm going to delete all the files that have been created by running these actions over and over time. And I will come back to Reaper and I will select a mono file. So I guess I have to create a mono file. I'll run the Reaper action to explode multi-channel audio so that I can create one of these mono files. I'll take one of these mono files. Oh, and look at that, it's smart enough to mute the resulting items if the original item is muted. We have to pay attention to that as well in the later when we are converting the files, or we're placing the items in the timeline. That's what I should have said. Okay, so now I have a mono file here, and it is the mono file for channel 2. So that's the one we are going to keep. I'm going to delete all of these other ones. I'm keeping this one, it's still online. And when I run the Reaper action again to explode, I must assume that, yes, it does not create any new files. So we don't want to create any new files. So effectively what we want to do is, at this point in the process, where we have already inspected the files, it's safe to just remove them from the list. We forget that they have ever existed, and they become no ops. They will not affect the action from this point forward. And the way we are going to do this is we are going to traverse the list of medias, and we effectively are going to filter out the media items that have only one stream in them. So let's see, here is where we are initializing the medias. And I suppose what I'm gonna do is just change the name here, because now this is not the medias in general. These are the medias to inspect. And later we'll have medias to convert. And maybe later we will have something like medias to insert into the timeline or something like that. So I think that the best way to do this is to jump to Visual Studio Code, where I can more easily rename things. So I'll rename medias to inspect, and I will rename it here, but not here, and here, and here, and here as well, and here as well. So there you go. I have renamed the variable, and when I come back to Reaper, I can reload it. Sometimes when I'm scrolling and I accidentally hit Command, it changes the font size, and then I have to calibrate it again. I usually do it by accident. Hang on, I'll be back. I'm back. So I could have just the medias list and then remove in place and mutate that list. But to traverse a list and mutate it at the same time sounds like a bad idea. I think it's better to have separate lists for this. So at this point, when I have finished inspecting, and I'm about to start the beginning, I'm about to start the loop for the conversion of the files. Oh yeah, so I said that I was going to test what this action currently does. So I think that what it's going to do is create new files with different streams, but the stream is going to be the same as the original file because there is only one stream in the file. As it exists, this code is not treating this edge case of not doing anything if the file has a single stream. To mimic what Reaper is doing on the action to explode different channels if there is a single channel. So one way to test this is to get a file that has a single stream, and that's this one right here. It has a single stream. And then I'm going to run the action on this file, and I'm going to check that it is creating, as you can see right here, it is creating new files with the contents of the single stream. I don't want that to happen. So I'm going to come back here to my Reaper editor, and I will write the code to make this Right, so right before the conversion, I am going to create a new medias to convert list. It will start empty. And then for media, what am I putting in the medias to inspect list? So it's not a key value situation. This is just a single, it's just a list. So I'm treating the table as a list. So I don't care about the keys. I do care about the material in the list. Oh yeah, so the loop is going to be similar to this. And in the loop, I'm going to check if the media streams has a size of greater than 0, then I am going to medias to convert. I will table insert into that, and what I'm going to insert is the media. And I suppose I should rename this variable as well, because it's currently called media, but it could be media to inspect. You know what? I think this is unambiguous. So in this case, I'm going to leave this as media. And here I'll leave this as media as well. And here I'll leave this as media as well. So right now what I'm doing is I'm filtering the list of medias to inspect and building the medias to convert. And I'm just traversing the list and I'm checking. Is the number of streams in the media greater than 0? If so, copy it over. Otherwise, don't copy it over. So at the end, medias to convert will only have the ones that have more than one stream. Oh, this should not be greater than 0. It should be greater than 1. Because there is at least one stream in the file, I suppose. So let's double check that I have changed everything correctly. Okay, so I am saving this, and this is, oh yeah, okay. So the issue here is I have selected only one media item, and this media item has only one stream. So by the end of this, the medias to convert list is empty, and then FFmpeg is going to fail because it's going to try to convert 0 files, which makes no sense. So what I should do here is check if the number of elements in medias to convert is equal to 0, then return, because I don't need to keep doing any work. There is no file for me to convert. I will just end silently. It's similar to this story we have right here. If you did not select any media items to begin with before calling this action, I don't do any work. So I have something similar over here. And then I can save this, and I'm going to delete all the files that have to do with, yeah, there are no files here that have to do with exploding different streams. So there is no work for me here to do. And I can just run this. I can save and run this a bunch of times, and no files are created. But if I come here and select maybe 2 items, one of which has some streams in it, then FFmpeg is going to run, and it's going to create the files with the different streams. Perfect. So we have managed that weird edge case of a file that has just one stream in it. Now let's look at the problem of inserting tracks similar to these tracks. Let's look at the problem of inserting these tracks to later hold the items that will be the different streams. Now, what I need to do here is to be smart. As I said, I need to reuse some of the tracks in case there are multiple items on the same track and I'm exploding all of them. I want to reuse some of these tracks. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a separate table, a separate list that maps the media items that are in the timeline and where not the media items, I'm going to map the tracks in which the media items are and the number of tracks that I need to create underneath. So I'm going to traverse all the media items that I have selected. And now this is in the medias to convert list. remember that medias to convert is being created based on medias to inspect. Medias to inspect has in medias to inspect, I can get a hold of the media item that was originally selected. So from the media item, I'm going to traverse all of them. And from the media item, I can get the track in which the media item is. That's the information I need. So I'll have here tracks to create list or table, because this time I think that the smart thing to do is to map the number of the track that already exists and the number of tracks that I need to create underneath it. Hang on, I'll be I need to interrupt because I have a bad case of allergies over here and I don't want to blow my nose on your ears. That would be quite disgusting. So, tracks to create. Let's go over the list of medias, get a hold of the track in which the media item is, and then we will figure out how many tracks we need to create overall. So let's loop over the media to convert situation over here. I don't necessarily need the index this time. I just need the media itself. And then I will need to look at the API. So there is this API help button here I can click to open the API documentation. And I need to get tracks. So I'll look for tracks. You cannot see because of my face, but I'm searching for tracks. So let's see if I can get a hold of the track based on the item. What we are doing here is searching for an action or a function that will receive the media item and return its track. So let's go over the list again. I may be missing something here. So any track solo is track selected, set selected. This is all changing stuff on the track. This is to bypass effects. This is to solo, count the number of tracks. Count tracks, create track sen, number of tracks, get number of tracks, on track selection, mute, toggle, get set, track, okay, get track state, remove tracks, reorder, get track. So this is if I already have a track, I can get information from the track. This is I can select a track. So yeah, it seems like this information is not under the keyword track. It's under the keyword media item. I'll just search for item, and I know that this will be a lot of results, but I will search just for item. So add media item. Add media item to track is something we're gonna need later to add those media items we are creating. Add take to media item, we'll need that one as well. Insert automation item, is media item selected, get item, add, edit. Get media item track, look at this one, get media item track. Get the parent track of media item. Bam, that's the one we need. Given a media item, it will return to us a REAPER track. So local track, get media item track. So now I have this track. I need to know the number of the track. So I guess at this point we need to search one of those functions that we were just looking at that would give us information about the track. So let's look for track again. Add media item to track, has track. No, add, insert, set is, I wish there was that overlay we were just looking at, that would make everything gray except for the matches, but it seems like there are too many matches. We just did this and it worked. I have no idea what's going on. Set track, get bypass, set, get track, get master, track, count, get media item track, count, mark, count, get, count, get media item track. Oh, look at this one. This seems good. It's similar to this one in name. It is exactly the same. Given an item, it returns a media track. What's going on? So there is the get media item track and the get media item underscore track. Get parent track of media item. I don't know which one to use. I guess I'll use this one because it looks better without the underscore. But I have no idea. Okay. Continuing our search for track information. Get media track info value. That seems promising. Get number of tracks. Get parent track. Track. Get selected track. Move media item to track. Set track. Mute all tracks. Toggle. Effect stuff. Get set media track info string. Okay, that seems promising. Bunch of effect stuff. Delete track. We are not into the business of deletion. Get track state, maybe. Okay. Get track? No, we already have the track. Get automation mode, get track color, get track depth, get track envelope, get media item, get track media item. What does that do? Given a media track and then an index, it returns the media item. Okay, that's good if we want to enumerate all the items in a track. I don't think we need that. Get parent, envelope, from point, GUID, get track media item, get track name, get track number of media items, get track number of sends, receive name. What I want is the index of the track. So coming back here to Reaper, I want like the number 1 right here. That's because we have selected these 2 items. I want to get a hold of this number. That's what I'm trying to get here. It seems like there are a million ways to get there. Oh no, the search reset. Oh no. Oh, this is no fun. The Reaper API is awesome because it's capable of a lot of things, but it's also terribly documented. I mean, the documentation is there, and if you have enough time, you will find everything in there. Or at least you'll find something to Google for and maybe to search in the Reaper forum for. But it's not the best documentation. Okay. I think I looked at everything, so let's see the things that I have selected. So get media track info value. Whether this is muted, I don't care about whether the track is muted. I will care about whether the media item is muted, but not the track. Phase track number. Bam. So track number 1 based, 0 if not found, or -1 if the master track. Okay, let's see what else we have over here. Rack input, rack auto mode. This is about automation, number of channels, whether it's selected. I don't really care about any of these. Folder depth, that is going to be important because we want the tracks that we create to be children of the track in which the items exist. So we will want this. I'm going to collect the things that we are interested in. So we are interested in this. We are interested in this. Custom color, height, volume, pen, width, pen, envelopes, showing mixer, main scene, free mode, yada yada yada, project. Okay, parent track could be interesting. Let's see this one. Get set media track info string. That's the name, the icon. No, what we want is effectively a number. So I think that value is our guy. In fact, I think we have already found our guy. I think that this is our guy. I just want to make sure. This is deprecated, so I won't even look at it. So I think we have our guy. What we are going to do to double check is we are going to Reaper show console message of the to string of and we will pass our track, and as the parameter name we will pass this. So now when I save this, it should complain about something. What's happening? Start bad argument number 1 to get media item track. Media item expected. That's because we are passing item here, which is not what we should pass. We should pass media dot, and what do we call it? I think we call it media item. Yes, we call it media item. So media dot media item. Maybe I could have called this media, whatever. So this is the number 1. Excellent, because we are selecting media items in track number 1. What would happen if we created another track before it, so it becomes number 2? When I run this again, it outputs the number 2. We are good to go. We are getting a hold of the number of the track in which the media items are selected. Now let's do things to that information. So I'll call this the track index, or the track number, because that's the language used by Reaper. So I'll call this the track number. And now I will need to put things in the tracks to create. So tracks to create at track number will be equal to the maximum between either the track number or 0, because if the number is not there, because we are checking this for the first time, the number won't be there. So I can say that this is the 0th, or that there are 0 tracks that I need to create underneath, because I have not looked at this before. Not sure this explanation is any good, so I'll try again. So what I'm doing here is I am setting the number of tracks that I need to create. These tracks to create will be a map. For instance, in this case that we have right here, where we have selected these items, we will want to create 3 subtracks. Yeah, we want to create 3 subtracks because they need to accommodate 3 different streams. So I will have the number 2, which is the current track where we are at. The number 2 will be the track number. So that's the track number right there. So the map will be, for instance, the number 2 maps 2, and then the number of tracks that I need to create. For instance, in this case, I need to create 3 of them right here, these 3 tracks. So that's what I want to produce. And so in fact, I think I'm going to leave this as a comment here below for our reference. So the number 2 is the track number that we just got from here. That's all good. And now we need the number 3 here. Initially, this list will be empty. So initially, this table will be empty. So there will be no elements in here, no fields. So let's start with that, and then I will do the math maximum thing. So initially, this will be empty, and what I want to do is to get this number 3. Where do I get this from? Well, the media is to convert situation over here. The media that is in the media is to convert has a streams field that starts empty but has been populated when we were inspecting and getting the file information. So when we were doing that, we were inserting into the streams. So we know how many streams there are in the media item just by looking at the number of elements in the streams field. So we'll look at the number of items in the streams field. Okay, I want to double check that all this logic makes sense. So I'll Reaper show console message of toString of track number is equal to the number, or actually I'll just get this. So the toString of that, and then when I save this, I see that from track number 2, underneath track number 2, I will have to create 3 tracks. Excellent. But what happens if I have multiple items on the same track and they have different numbers of children or different number of streams in them? Then in that case, I will need to take the maximum of all of them. So now let's go over the maximum situation that I was eagerly trying to code all in one pass. So instead here, what I will do is I'll not just get the number of streams, I will get the math maximum of between the number of streams and the current number that was already there, except that, oh, to begin with, that will be nil, because currently you can think about this as having nil underneath all the keys. So the number will be nil to begin with. To guard against that, I'm going to say or 0. So the maximum between any positive number and 0 will be the positive number, and otherwise we will be taking the maximum between that and the number of streams in this particular media item that we are looking at. So I can save this again, and it will not show anything different, but suppose that we have, I guess a simple way to test this is to just have 2 of the same. So I'll just have 2 of the same media items, one here and one there, and I will even have one more over here. And I'll select all 3 of them. So what I expect to see now is I expect to see 3 lines in the show console message. In fact, to see 3 lines, I should also print right after this toString, I should print a new line. But I expect to see 3 lines when I run this. The first line will be the number, I don't know in which order they are going to occur, because I don't know in which order Reaper is going to give me the media items, and I don't know how this is going to be traversed. But the point here is, I expect to see 3 lines. One of the lines will be the number 1, because that's track number 1, equals to 3, because there will be 3 children. And then I expect to see the 2 other lines be track number 2 maps to 3 children. Save to run, and run this. This is taking forever. I assume that there is something wrong with the conversion command, because it's making Reaper just freeze. That's bad. If the conversion command fails, if I call ffmpeg from the command line with a command that does not output. Oh, I think I know what the problem is. Okay, so if I call ffmpeg from the command line with a command that takes too long, Reaper is going to freeze. And we looked at this issue before in a previous stream. That happens because when you call a command from the command line in Reaper, you need to set a timeout. And we set a timeout of infinity. We don't want the thing to time out ever because we may have big files and then I don't know which timeout to use. So I just let the thing run forever. But the problem is, I am calling ffmpeg with the same file multiple times. We have selected here the same file several times. And then we are doing our whole routine that we wrote in the previous stream to come up with unique file names. The issue here is we have selected the same media item multiple times. So when ffmpeg is running, it's trying to create the same files over and over. And if ffmpeg tries to write a file that already exists, it's going to ask you if you want to overwrite or not. But we don't have a console over here. We are running a command line from within Reaper, so we never see that prompt. And still, that prompt makes Reaper hang forever. I don't know of a way to stop this. I think that the only thing I can do is try to I have to force quit Reaper. That is sad. So we have to fix this issue. We have to fix this bug. When we are creating unique file names, we must not only look at files that already exist in the file system, which is what we currently do. So to check, to make unique file names, what we are doing is over here, we are checking whether the file exists in the file system. But if we select media items that point at the same file, like these two media items point at the same file, just by virtue of pointing at the same file, they will try to create the same files. So I need to make unique names. That is a weird edge case. I need to make unique names even within the unique name creation routine. So I need to check not only if the file exists, but also if the file name is not already in some of the files that I'm going to create. I will have to deal with this edge case, but before I get into it, I just want to make sure that my whole other routine that I'm writing to get a hold of the tracks to create, if that is working correctly. I want to check that this part is working correctly, and I want to make sure that I get the output that I was explaining a minute ago. So what I'm going to do is recreate that situation because I lost it since Reaper froze. And what I'm going to do is I will not run the conversion command. I commented out the part that actually runs the command. So I will be creating the file names that are wrong because they are repeated, but I'm not running the command, so that's okay. And the tracks to convert the tracks to create situation here is completely independent of having actually run the command. So I'll leave a to-do over here. And now I'll save. And then I see some output. That is good. Let me clear this, move this to the side, and I will select all the 3 items that I have mentioned before. So all these 3 items, and I will run the action. And now I see what I expected. So the number 1 here is track number 1, and I need to create 3 children, and track number 2 appears twice because there are 2 media items in there. And I will need to create 3 child tracks. 3 children tracks? Probably 3 children tracks. So that's what I have to do over here. And by the end of all this loop, the table will look like number 1 maps to 3, number 2 maps to 3. Excellent. So I can get rid of this show console message. And I am going to continue the work on the track creation, and I will leave this to do here so that I remember. Create unique file names if multiple media items point at the same media file. I think we will know what this means. So now, and it's also fine to comment this out because we are still creating tracks. We are not creating the media items in the tracks to actually point at this file. So every time I'm running something to test, it's actually calling ffmpeg and creating new files here in the folder, and then I end up with a bunch of copies. So it's kind of nice to have this commented out during development anyway. So we are able to create a table that looks like this. Now we need to iterate over this table and actually create the tracks. And I want to create the tracks in a smart order. Because when I create a bunch of tracks, effectively what we will have to do here is create a bunch of tracks at this position. So when we create tracks at this position, this number 2, it used to be track number 2, this track here that will be affected as well, it now became track number 3 because of this one. So I need to be smart about the order. I want to do this from bottom up, so that I create the new tracks underneath track number 2 first, without affecting the track number of track number 1. And then I will create the tracks underneath track number 1 and so on. So I need to sort this table. And it appears from the output we saw a minute ago, it appears to already be sorted, but I cannot rely on this. As far as I can tell, the Reaper API gives me no promise about the order in which it's going to return stuff. So I will sort this table. How do I sort tables in Lua? I know there is a table sort Lua. I know this exists. Table insert, sort, table sort. It receives an array to be sorted plus an optional order function. This order function receives 2 arguments and must return true, blah, blah, blah. If this function is not provided, sort uses the default less than operation. A common mistake is to try to sort the indices of a table. Well, that's exactly what we want to do. In a table, the indices form a set and have no order whatsoever. If you want to order them, you have to copy them to an array and then sort the array. Okay, fine by me. I mean, we do have to have this as a key value sort of situation. The tracks to create needs to be a proper table with key values instead of just a list, because we want to remove the duplicates. That's what this is doing. If there are multiple media items in the same track, this line is being smart and getting the maximum of the media items, the maximum number of streams within that media item. So we do need to remove the duplication, and that's what this is doing. So tracks to create is correct. So what I'm going to do is copy to a list, and then I will sort the list. So I will create a list here, tracks to create list. Don't like this name. Then I will loop over track number. Children tracks to create count. Number of children to create. That's the best name I have. In I pairs of tracks to create. And then I will table insert into the tracks to create list a table that has the field track number is equal to track number and number of children to create is equal of number of children to create. So I have just copied the table, the map effectively, into the list. So I guess I will rename this to tracks to create map. And over here, I will change that as well. So now I have a map, and then I will convert that into a list, and then I will table sort the tracks to create list based on the field So I will have to learn how F works. Oh, come on. That's annoying. We have to read the documentation. So this order function receives 2 arguments and must return true if the first argument should come first in the sorted array. So I'll have to pass here a function that receives 2 arguments. And they will be track to create 1 and track to create 2. And I want to order this by return track to create 1 dot track number is less than track to create 2 track number. And this is getting out of hand, so I'm going to write a loop of track to create in I pairs of tracks to create list and in here I will Reaper show console message. I know I will want a new line, and I am going to concatenate the track to create track number to string and also to string of track to create number of children to create. Now save that. Attempt to index a new value. So yeah, I was expecting that I would make a mistake in this whole situation here. It's a long piece of code. I will format this, come back to Reaper because the lines are wrapping, and I will reread what I have here because I suppose there is an issue. Well, I know there is an issue, but I suppose I can fix the issue just by reading what I wrote. So tracks to create map. Let's see if I introduced a bug when I renamed stuff. So if I run this, saved and recompiled, then I can run this and it's running fine. So the issue is not here in the tracks to create list. Is it in the sort? attempt to index a new value. So the problem is in here somewhere. Tracks to create list, tracks to create map. Okay, so that is running now. That was an issue, and the issue was in the renaming. So tracks to create list, and then I sort. Is the sort okay? Seems to be, because there are no error messages over here. And then finally, okay, so let's double check that what we have makes sense. Under track number one, we want to create 3 children. Under track number 2, we want to create 3 children as well. Except I don't like the order in this list. I would like exactly the opposite, because we want to go from bottom up. So I'll change this order, and now we see tracks ordered from bottom up. Awesome. So now we are able to actually borrow this loop. And we will need to look at the Reaper API to get a hold of how we create a track. And we kind of found this before, but I did not open a tab with this. So add media item to track, add project marker. Let's look for track. Insert track at index. I think this is going to be our guy. Inserts a track at index. Of course, this will be clamped to 0 get number of tracks. 1 default equals to true for default. Envelope effects, otherwise no enabled effects. Okay. So the index here will be from track to create dot track number, and the 1 defaults will be true. I don't know. Once true for default envelopes effects, otherwise no enable effects. I think it makes sense to have this as true. Okay. So now I am going to run this by saving this. And yes, it did create a new track over here and 2 tracks over here because I have 2 items selected. So this is creating the tracks in the right positions. But it's of course not creating the right number of tracks. Why did it create 2 tracks here? Because I have 2 children. It should have created only 1. I don't know. So for I don't really care about this number. For blah equals from 1 to tracks to create number of children to create, do that. Loops in Lua are inclusive, so it's going to go from 1 to the number of children, like the number 3. It will go from 1 to 3, so it will run this 3 times. The track number stays the same. I will be just creating tracks underneath. So let's move this to the side, and I'm going to save this, which runs the action. And now I have 1, 2, 3 children. That seems correct. And I have 1, 2, 3 children. That also seems correct. Excellent. So I'm creating the tracks the right way. But that's not enough. I want to make them children tracks, and I may want to copy some of the situation on the track itself. Let's see how Reaper does this. I know for a fact, because we saw this in the stream previously, that Reaper will copy the state of the item. So if the item is muted and I tell Reaper to explode the different channels in the item, it will make the new items muted as well. Does it do the same for the track? So I'm going to mute the original track. I'm going to select only this guy, and I'm going to call explode multi-channel audio, and I'm going to run this, and it keeps the children items muted, but the children tracks are not muted. So I'm not going to do any extra work here to mute the tracks. I could do some extra work to name the tracks, but I don't think it makes sense, because if I have multiple items selected on the same track, then what name do I give these guys? I'm not going to copy this part. I don't really care about the name of the tracks underneath. Or do I? You know what? I don't think it's based on the name of the tracks. I think it's based on the name of the track name here. So if I have something like hello, and then I rerun my most recently run action, which is to explode. Yeah, it's based on this name. So I guess it would be kind of nice to copy the name over here. So let's do that. We will find how to, we have created a new track. So in this insert track at index, we have created a new track. But what we have not is, this didn't return the new track first to work with. So we need to get a hold of that track. And we can get track, we saw that before. This is going to be annoying code to write. So this is going to be the created track. The Reaper project is 0. That's the current project. You could have multiple tabs in Reaper with multiple projects open, and we could write an action that would act on all the different projects, but in this case our action is acting only on the currently opened project. And then the track index, we have to be smart about this. I am pretty sure that this is 0 based. So we want the track to create dot you know what? I don't think it's smart to do this in the loop that we are creating the tracks, because we are creating the tracks and they will go one below the other. Yeah, when I'm creating tracks, I'm creating, like, for instance, this one. I'm creating this one first. I'm creating this one first and then this one. So I guess it's smarter first to create all the tracks we need to create, and then loop over and name them. So this is us creating the tracks. And then we are going to loop over again. And here we'll have a created track situation, and we'll have the number 0 for the current Reaper project, and then the track to create dot track number plus, and this time I want the index, so created track index plus the created track index minus 1, because all these numbers are 1 based. So track number will be, for instance, in this case, the number 2. So track number will be the number 2. Created track index would start with the number 1, which will give me the number 3. That is all correct, because I want to get a hold of this track. And then I subtract 1 because I'm pretty sure that this is 0 based. So now I have the created track here. I will also need And I guess I can do this over here because that's the closest place where I will need this. So I guess this is a good place to get a hold of the parent track, because I need to get a hold of the parent track name. So create a track. So this will be the parent track. And in this case, I get just the track number -1 because I'm pretty sure that this is 0 based. And then I will say parent track name is equal to. So now we have to look for track again because we want to get the name of the track. So get track. We saw this before. Track value. So again, I guess it's going to be get media track info value. No. I'll look for track info. Get set media track info string, which gets me the name. Let's see. So the media track that we are interested in is the parent track. The parameter name that we are interested in is the name. Now we have to pay attention to this because on master this returns null, but on master you cannot have any items, I don't think. I don't know, but I don't think you can have items on the master, so I don't think I need to worry about this being null. Now string needs big. What the heck is this? String needs big. I don't know. I don't know what this is about. So do I want string needs big or do I not want that? And then, so okay, I will say just string needs big. I will say true. I will need big. I don't know. And then set new value. No, I'm not setting a new value. I'm getting a value. So yeah, the Reaper API has a single function to get and set, and then you have to pass true or false. So am I setting a new value? No. And this will return two things. It will return the value that I am interested in. No. It will not return a value. It will return something, a boolean that I don't care about. And then the name. So I guess this string needs big is not a boolean, in fact. It's a string. So this is one of those situations in which the Reaper API is the same for C, C++, Python, Lua, and EEL. And then in some places, in C and C++, you would pass things by reference. And in Lua, pass by reference is not a thing, so you have to pass a dummy value. So this string needs big is a dummy value. And then this will get a hold of the parent track name. Oh, this is terrible. But at least now I have the function I need to set the children track name. So now I will have the created track. I will set the P name. And I'm setting the name. So I guess this time I'm passing this string needs big as the value that I'm setting. Get set media track info. So I'm passing the name parent track name concatenated with a space, and in here I will say stream space, and I will concatenate the two string off the created track index. And this time I am setting something, so I'll pass through here. Now, let's see what this does. Deleting the tracks and coming back here to our example where we have these 3 items selected, and I will save the action now, which runs the action. And this was an empty track, so it reads as empty space stream 1, stream 2, and stream 3, and this was the hello track, which reads hello stream 1, stream 2, and stream 3. Good, the name is done. Now let's make these tracks be children of the parent, this guy. We need to look at, now it's going to be track info value. We saw this before in the API. Get set media track info value. And probably there is a get media track info value. So I'll search for this. Yes, so there is a get and a set for info values. One of the info values is the folder depth. We collected this information before here in this comment. So the track number, I have already worked with that. Now let's look at folder depth. I'm going to save this, and I'm going to come back here to Visual Studio Code and format and save and come back and reload, just because the lines were too long. So here I am creating the track, here I am naming the track. But now I want to make the track's children. And in the API, I have a folder depth. So I can get the folder depth and I can set the folder depth of a track. So we need to talk about folder depths. The way that Reaper reasons about children tracks is not that they are children of a track. It's not like it's not that this, so I make by hand, I will make the thing that I would like to happen. So it's not that these 3 children tracks are related to the parent track in any way. No. What happens is this track number 2, has this depth that indicates that it's a folder. In particular, it is a depth of 1. It indicates that the parent is a folder. And then this is depth 0, this is depth 0, and this is depth -1. So -1 indicates that the track is the last in the innermost folder. This is the last in this folder, so it is -1. And then this will be depth 0, and this is depth 0 and 0 and so forth. One way to think about this, after having worked with folders several times, I eventually came up with this intuition. The way I think about this is that you can traverse the list of tracks from top down, and you can keep a counter of your current depth, and then just use these folder depth variables to update your counter, and you will know the depth where you currently are at. So what we need to do is, first of all, we need to get a hold of the depth of the parent, because we are going to change the depth of the parent to be 1, so that it's a folder to contain the children. But we need to get a hold of the depth of the parent, because if the parent is the last track in a folder, I want this guy to be the last track in that folder in which the parent was. It is confusing, yes. Let's do this. So we have the parent track. Here we're getting a hold of the parent track name. Now we need to get a hold of the parent track depth. And this time we are using get info value. And this get info value is a lot saner than get set media track info string, because we don't need to pass the dummy values and we don't need to pass a boolean to indicate whether we are setting or getting, which is insane. Parent track. And what is the parameter name? It's the folder depth. And now immediately after that, we are going to set the parent track. The parameter name is folder depth. And new value is the number 1. Why? Because the number 1 will say that this is a folder parent. And now we are going to traverse this to get a hold of the last children that we had, the last child that we have created. How do I get a hold of that? Well, I guess I will have to get track with a certain number. So this will be the last child track. And this will be the track number plus the number of tracks to create. -1. And then we are going to set the media track info value of, oh, come on. Oh, come back. So this is going to be on the last child track. I'm going to set the folder depth to the parent track depth -1. So if the parent track depth was 0, this is going to be just the -1 that ends the current folder. But if the parent was the last track on a folder, then the parent will be, if the parent was the last track on a folder, now this last child will be the last track on the folder that we are creating and the existing folder as well. I wonder what would happen if the selected track is already a parent. Then this parent track depth is 1 and the last folder depth would be 0. Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen there. In any case, I do have my test scenario here with just the tracks that I care about selected. I'm going to come here and save and we'll see what happens. So these are children, all right, and these are children as well. Excellent. This is painful, but also super fun. Now, so something bad happened. So let's see this again. The bad thing that has happened is this. I'm selecting all the tracks and I'm coming here and I'm running the action. And now I'm going to type Command Z. Oh, okay. So that's good. It's undoing everything. For a moment, I thought that it was not undoing everything. So sometimes a Reaper action will not undo all the things just by hitting Command Z, and then you have to write some Lua code to make sure that you can fix the undo situation. In most cases, when you are calling external Reaper commands from within your Reaper action, so if you are, for instance, trying to call one of these, which is something you can do, you can call any Reaper action from within your rescript. If you do that, then you're probably going to break undo. But in our case, we are not doing that, so we are not breaking undo. So we have all the tracks selected, we can run this, and we are creating children. And we can undo, and that works. Now, suppose that the track that we are interested in, we are creating a track, we are exploding this, but this is already the last child of its parent. So when I run it now, doesn't do anything. What the heck? What? If this is not a children of anyone, then it doesn't work. It doesn't do anything. But it has just worked. Oh, come on. Let's redo exactly the same scenario. So this is working. If I select 2, that's not working. If I select just this one, that's working. Something is weird. Something is weird and messed up. I am deleting a bunch of tracks. Okay, so this is working as expected. Now what happens if I select a guy on a track that is the last child, then this breaks. And I suppose now this works. Okay, so there is definitely a mistake here in the number of tracks and setting the child as setting the hierarchy correctly. The folder depth is probably the situation that is going wrong here. So yeah, this is working again. Let's double check this, and if there is an obvious mistake, I will fix it. Otherwise, I will wrap it up. Parent track depth is the parent track depth, and then set the parent track as a folder, and then the last child track is the track number plus the number of children to create -1 to get the last one. And then I set on the last child track a depth of the parent -1. So for instance, in this simple scenario, the parent depth is 0. And I can even have some other guys over here to make sure that this is correct. So when I run this, this becomes -1. If I am not the last on a folder, this doesn't work either. The funny thing is that it's not even creating the... oh yeah, it's not converting the files because I commented out that part of the code. But it's not even creating the tracks. That is weird, isn't it? Okay, so what I'm going to do is just leave a fix me. This doesn't work when the track is a child track. But at least this simple case is working. So I'll leave this to do, and there is, or this fix me, and I have already worked with the folder depth. And at this point, I think I can remove this show console messages from here. So yeah, this is doing a lot of the right things and some of the wrong things, but I think it's time for me to wrap things up. So yeah, let's look at what we did and what we are going to do next. So what we did effectively is just work on this edge case. I will write it like this. So we worked on this edge case of when you have selected some items, but they are all single stream items, so they should be skipped. So we worked on this edge case. We found a mistake here on the unique name situation, where if you have multiple items pointing at the same file underneath, that will run into an error, and we need to fix that. Probably on the next stream, we may do that. then we have created tracks the right way, even with the right names and the folder depth is correct mostly, but there is still this mistake. So I guess next time we are going to do is fix the mistakes that we have found on the way, and we will place the items on the tracks. In fact, I think I will do that in the opposite of order of what I just said. I think I'm going to start with putting the items in the right tracks, because we have the tracks already. They have the right names. They are children of the right tracks. So all we have to do is just put the items in there, and the action will be working mostly, and that's going to be exciting. And then we'll return and fix many mistakes. There will be some mistakes with regards to Windows support, and there will be problems with the distribution of FFmpeg, and there will be all these other issues we found along the way, so there will be a lot of extra work there. But yeah, I think that's it for now. Thank you all for watching this stream. If you are liking this, then subscribe to the channel to get notifications on when I am streaming next. And now I have streamed for a whole week, so I guess I am more or less okay with the setup, which means the next time I stream, I will probably schedule and let people know and share this on the Reaper forums and whatnot, because it's always fun to have company on the stream. You can support me on Patreon, you can support me on PayPal, you can follow along with the streams, you can contribute to the source code, and I hope you had fun learning some Lua, some Reaper APIs, and some general programming. I see you on the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye.